me having been so far behind on the series RWBY, I decided that this first episode would just be an impression of, I guess, episodes 1 through 5, since I saw 5 yesterday, and I guess I'll start doing reviews next week, starting obviously from episode 6. But so far for the show RWBY by Rooster Teeth, of course. Also, if you haven't seen it, and you're coming across this, definitely check it out. It's by Monty Yoon, if that helps. He's the guy who made Dead Fantasy and some other really cool action videos. But also, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can actually go to Rooster Teeth, and you'll actually be ahead of what's on YouTube, because they post, they just posted episode 4, but episode 5 just came out on Rooster Teeth. So definitely go there. Obviously, they did that so that they could get people to actually go to their channel, so, or their website. I mean, so go to roosterteeth.com and you actually be caught up. But the show itself, started off with the 4 trailers. They were, great trailers. They were all really cool. And, because of the trailers, I actually thought that the show would be a lot like Dead Fantasy, where there was no actual dialogue. Like, there was a story, but it was just all done through the fighting and, simple hand gestures. But, after seeing the actual first episode, and actually, I guess the last 2 trailers, really, because they had voice acting in them. But after seeing the first episode, I really saw, like, oh, this isn't just, fighting left and right. This is an actual show, and it's actually, like an anime. And it was really cool. The first episode they go through, they give an explanation of dust and how it's pretty much the control of elements, and then they, show the main character, who's of course Ruby, and she has her fight with the villain of the episode, who will obviously come back. Him and the I guess she was like a witch or like an evil huntress, sort of. But obviously they're gonna be like the main villains of the series, so they're gonna come back later on, which would be pretty cool to see. And of course they didn't even show the woman's face, so I feel like generally when that happens, it's for a reason. So maybe she'll actually end up being in the show before we know that it's her, or something like that. But they showed them, and so they started off the show with the elements of who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and where the story is really gonna go from here. And it's Ruby and her sister Yang, and they're going to this academy to learn how to fight monsters. So they have their weapons, and they're going in to train. They meet John Arc, who's definitely, he has like my favorite moments in the series so far, because he's so funny, and like all the lines, the dialogue is really well done. And like Ruby and Yang, they have funny moments where it'll just be like silly little stuff where they're talking like bee's knees, and Ruby was like, I don't want to be the bee's knees. I want to be a normal girl with normal knees. And in, I believe, episode 4, she mentioned, like, she was like, I don't need other people to grow up. I drink milk, and just silly stuff like that. There's like good one-liners that are just really funny in the dialogue. But Jean Arc is by far the funniest portion of the show, and he's obviously meant to be, the comedy character. Like, initially, I thought he'd be, the love interest for the main character, but you can see it even in the opening that he actually ends up with someone else, and their little group, which I thought was really cool, because I never expected there to be a secondary group. But it makes perfect sense. You have the 4 girls, and then you have John, who's like I said, the comedy relief. So if he's gonna be in it, and the school or the story pretty much sets the characters up into specific groups, it would be kind of weird if he had his own group and he's the comedy relief, but you never saw the characters that he actually interacted with outside of Ruby, her sister, and Blake and Weiss were the other 2 characters. I guess the only real problem, and of course everyone has the same issue with it, is that the show is really short. Like, the first episode was 12 minutes, which I thought was fine. The rest of the episodes are about, 6 minutes or 5 minutes, something like that. Because I remember I watched the first episode, and then the second one was literally 6 minutes long. I was like, oh, it's actually half the time. And actually, the latest episode, episode 5, was only like 4 minutes and 33 seconds, and it honestly felt so short. like a lot of people, were complaining, like in general, with the shortness. But for this one, I think people were a little bit more upset because I guess generally it is 6 minutes, and I think the other one was like 5.5, was probably the shortest before 4.5. But I mean, for the episodes, I thought honestly I'd wait 2 weeks if it was just for longer episodes, like, you know, because this was technically the first step part two, and episode four was the first step part one. So if they had those two together, I think they would have been fine because I felt like the first step part one was actually, was more than long enough actually, and I guess it was just because the characters had so much dialogue. There was a lot less walking in that episode. Like it was pretty much all dialogue, really. And then in this one, it was mostly running because they were in the forest, so characters were running through the forest and meeting up, and it was really simple stuff. Ruby, well, obviously is the main character. She of course has the most dialogue in the episode, and it's really her trying to figure out, all right, where's Yang so I can be on her team. And then of course she runs into Weiss, which I figured would happen. But how they did it, I thought was interesting because I was thinking for some reason Ruby wouldn't want to be on Weiss's team either. But I guess that's just because I forgot. Like Ruby's really sort of an outgoing character, so she keeps trying to be Weiss's friend, and Weiss just looked at her and was just like, like even though the rule is the first person you see is your partner, she just walked away like, nope. And then of course she saw John like just stuck in the tree, which I love. That was definitely my favorite part of that too because I can't remember the character's name, but obviously like she's the one who Jean ends up with, and like she's this amazing person, and he's like the complete opposite. So opposites attract type of thing. And when she landed, it was cool to see that her weapon also transformed because I actually thought that only Ruby and Yang had gun-based weapons, but apparently she has one too, and I love that hers is a repeater. For some reason, I don't know, it makes me think like old west and stuff, which it could be from like just old cowboy movies because the repeater is generally it's either like a revolver or a repeater, and the repeater is like the top gun. You can just fire off and kill everybody, and it was cool that she had that. And then she sees Jean falling, and she just like flips it, and it turns into the spear. And it was really cool to see that. And I loved how she just like lined it up with her thumb, and when she threw it, it kind of like shot off like a rocket. And it was just like you wait, and it's just like thank you. And then it was funny that she apologized, and that really showed how nice of a character she is. And you could also see that in the first part when she's introduced to Jean, and she's just like hello, and then he like he completely ignores her, but she's still really nice to him. And so like it's cool to see how they end up interacting, and how she made a joke at the end of the episode where when he was stuck in the tree, she was like, are there any spots on your team? Is like very funny. And then they just look at each other and they both smile. And of course that could just be simple because it was funny, but it just seemed like they already have a connection, and I think that's pretty cool. But so far I'm definitely enjoying the series, like pretty much everyone is. I mean, like I said, the only real problem is the fact that it's so short. But you know, every episode so far has been great. My favorite moment by far is when Jean was in the onesie. Like I was cracking up, like why is he in a onesie? But that was just hilarious. Like that's my favorite part was, like that whole episode because him before that when Ruby and Weiss were talking, Aaron, like Weiss talks to him and mentions like he's cute. He's just looking around and he's like, huh? And then he walks over to him like, I'm natural blind. There's just like silly stuff like that that I really enjoy about this show. And what someone mentioned for episode 5 was the reason it was so short, at least they were hoping, was because, episode 6, and I hope, once again, I'm hoping, is going to be a more action based episode. So that's why this one was so short, because the next one they made a lot longer because it's going to have a lot of action in it, which makes sense. There will at least be a fight because at the end of episode 5, Weiss does get surrounded by monsters. So there will at least be fighting, and because she's my favorite character so far, I actually hope Blake comes in. And the reason she's my favorite is because she's the ninja. But I really hope she comes into play and then it's Ruby, Blake, and Weiss. They already set up their team, and I also hope to see Lee Ren and his friend, who is Lee Ren's the guy with like the green, and his friend who's like the pink and white. I hope to see them more, and I really want to see her powers. Like I can't remember her name, but Lee's friend, or I guess Ren's friend. I can't. His name is Lee Ren, so I guess Lee's friend, but they call him Ren in the show. I don't know. But I hope to see his friend and like what her abilities are, because I was really hoping that they would show her landing, because I'd already seen he had the guns. So I was like, all right, they're gonna show him, and I wanted to see what she did, but they didn't show it. So I'm waiting to see what her abilities are, and if she's like she could just be a fighter too, kind of like Yang, but without the guns. Or she could just be like, she could be a kicker, I guess technically. But whatever her powers are, I'm waiting to see, and I'm excited for that. And like I said, definitely hoping that the next episode is really long, not just because it'll be fighting, but just for the simple fact that we wait a week like any other normal show. I hope we get a get long episodes, but obviously with me not making the show or anything, I can't say like why isn't it this long or that long. Obviously, it takes time and a lot of hard work to do all that stuff. So even when the episodes are short, at least they're good. Like 4.5 minutes, very short, but it was still a really good episode. And for some reason, just seeing the transformation for the one woman's weapon, and when she saves Jean, it kind of makes it for me. Like it was just that good of a scene to me. And also Yang flying through the trees like Top Gun, and she had like the glasses on. That's definitely like some Top Gun stuff. And then she like hits the ground and she just like nailed it, and she just keeps going. I thought that was really well done too. But overall, I love the show so far. Obviously, comment below, let me know what you think of the show so far. Obviously, if anyone comes across this, there will most likely be comments on how you hate um, how short the episodes are. But just hold out. It might take some time. Eventually, once the show picks up enough steam, it might end up being like Red versus Blue. Not with taking super long, because I heard that takes a long time too. But just as far as production goes, we'll be able to have more episodes and things like that. And definitely tell your friends about it if you know people who like anime and stuff, or even people who don't, because I feel like it's good enough. Like it is good enough for people to watch it, but you kind of have to convince them, because a lot of people will make a snap judgment just because it's in 3D. So just try to convince people to watch it, and hopefully that will pick up. Give the show enough steam to where we can get 12-minute episodes, and even half-hour long episodes, or 20-minute episodes, something like that. But that might be pretty far down the line. But either way, tell everyone to check it out, and definitely check it out yourself if you haven't seen it. And like I said, go to roosterteeth.com. That way you can actually just watch every episode as it comes out, instead of having to wait an extra week for YouTube to do it, or for them to put it on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Like I said, comment below, let me know what you think of the show so far, and thanks for watching.